walked into the break room and heard my coworker, Greg, telling our entire department that I had falsified the sales data to secure my quarterly bonus. He was standing there with a printed spreadsheet in his hand, pointing at the numbers and shaking his head while 3 other colleagues whispered in the corner. I have never once compromised my integrity in the 7 years I have worked at this firm, but Greg was painting me as a common thief to anyone who would listen. The air in the room felt thick and suffocating as I realized that my professional reputation was being dismantled by a man who was simply jealous of my performance. I felt a surge of cold adrenaline hit my system as I stepped further into the room and let the heavy door slam shut behind me. Greg has always been competitive, but he usually keeps his resentment limited to small, passive-aggressive comments during our weekly meetings. He had been passed over for the senior role that I eventually landed, and it was clear that he had spent his weekend digging through the shared drive to find anything he could twist into a scandal. By accusing me of fraud in front of our peers, he wasn't just venting frustration. He was actively trying to get me fired so he could slide into my position. My heart was thumping against my ribs with a mixture of shock and pure, focused anger as I watched the other coworkers look away from me, their silence acting as a form of secondary betrayal. If you have a problem with my data, Greg, you should have brought it to me instead of holding a mock trial behind my back, I said, walking straight up to him and snatching the spreadsheet from his hand. He tried to smirk and told the group that I was just getting defensive because I had been caught red-handed. He actually had the nerve to say that the discrepancies he found were undeniable proof that I had shifted figures from next month's projected revenue to make myself look better. I didn't back down. I opened my laptop right there on the table and pulled up the original time-stamped logs from the client portal. I showed everyone that the numbers Greg was calling fraudulent were actually the result of a last-minute contract expansion that he had conveniently ignored. I spent the next 10 minutes breaking down every single entry on that page, proving that Greg had manually edited the copy he was holding to make it look like a mistake on my end. The atmosphere in the room shifted from suspicion to absolute awkwardness as my colleagues realized they had been listening to a liar for the last 20 minutes. Greg's face went from a smug, triumphant red to a pale, ghostly white as he realized he had left a digital footprint of his sabotage on the server. I told him that I would be taking the edited spreadsheet and the server logs directly to human resources, and that he should probably start updating his resume before the end of the day. He tried to apologize, saying it was just a misunderstanding, but the damage was already done. I walked straight to the executive floor and filed a formal complaint for harassment and data tampering, providing the clear evidence of Greg's manipulation. The investigation took less than 24 hours because the IT department found the exact moment he had altered the files. Greg was terminated immediately for cause, and the director personally apologized to me in front of the team for the stress the situation had caused. I learned that when someone tries to bury your truth, you have to be the one to dig it up and show the world exactly who held the shovel. I am still the top salesperson at the firm, and while I am much more careful about my file permissions now, I finally feel like the air in the office is clean again.